Hello, my name's Amanda. Welcome to my channel. Happy Lionsgate. We are August 8th today, and the momentum of the auspicious Lionsgate portal started a few days ago, and it'll go a few days after this date. And it's when the star Sirius is closest to us in the sky, and it was a really sacred time in ancient civilizations when we were a lot more knowledgeable and connected to the spiritual forces around us and the stars and that kind of thing. But if you are a sensitive person or you are on a path of self-inquiry, you know that we use these special dates, special for the numerology and the zodiac sign that we're in, to make the most of the energy that's available to us. So it's a really sacred time for me personally. Even if you don't feel the energy or any difference right now at this time of year, that's okay. I want to encourage you to really trust that whatever's going on right now in your life, anything you're inspired about, any synchronistic meetings you're having with people are really important during this time. My own near-death experience in 2017 happened at the tail end of the Lionsgate on August 17th in 2017. And two of the most personally powerful plant medicine ceremonies I've ever sat in happened to be on August 8th, 1 year apart from each other in 2019 and 2020. And to kind of have a mental picture of what goes on in the energetic field around us that we can't see, but some of us are learning how to feel and sense. We, in the invisible realm around us, in the field, the ether is comprised of our thoughts and the things that we've said in this life, in past lives, and all the stuff that other people are thinking and saying in our collective. And even though we can't see those forces, they are karmic forces that are guiding us and healing us and shaking us up in order to move us forward, even if they're unpleasant. During the Lionsgate portal, it's a very benevolent energy that comes to us, and it has the potential to kind of break through temporarily some of that chaos, some of that swarming thought mind stuff that's always kind of moving around in the invisible ether around us, and bring us right into alignment with our highest good. So you may or may not have had, up until now, and will have next week, surprise meetings with people you haven't seen in a long time, meeting new acquaintances that might not seem like much at the time, but you look back later and you're like, that was something. Opportunities that come through wherever you are right now on the earth, whatever your schedule is, just naturally, you are in the right place at the right time for your soul's highest good, no matter what is going on. Even if it's very difficult and during this Lionsgate portal, you're being faced with things that you'd rather not being faced with, there's this momentum that comes from the great central sun, which is in a real, it's really to our favor right now to kind of go through whatever we're going through. And it really has a big karmic impact for the positive. We can clear out a bunch of patterns by just making a couple simple decisions, by passing small initiations or big or small tests that are coming our way during this time. Kind of amplifies the effect of whatever you're doing. So just to be really mindful of the decisions you're making, the words that you're saying out of your mouth, and taking any tests or initiations as opportunities to really advance yourself, because you kind of had the wind at your back during this time. And the energy of it has to do with the force of Christ, and not Christ from a religious ideology, but Christ as the benevolent, redemptive, sacrificial, and evolutionary force that is wanting to penetrate all of creation more and more to guide us to our future, to our best possible future. And the only thing in the way of that is our blocks. So right now we have that momentum from the Christ energy. Jesus, who carried the Christ energy, had the archetype of the king. He was called the Lion of Judah, and we're in Leo season. The lion, He also carried the archetype of the priest king. So on one side, the kind of like in between the spiritual realm and the physical realm is the priest. You know, the priest is not just a religious thing. The archetype of the priest is kind of a mediary between the people and the happenings on earth and kind of what's coming, what's happening in the ether and beyond. So Christ as the embodiment of the priest king in you, and also just the aspects of being brave, being daring, taking risks, everything that you associate with the archetype of the lion. And so it's just kind of like coming in for better or for worse, depending on what's happening in your life. But you can trust that it's very auspicious, whatever happens to be going on right now. And, you know, don't expect necessarily any mind-blowing changes, any mind-blowing synchronicities. You know, we work as spiritual students with the sacred and the silent and the secret. Things don't need to be big and loud and boisterous in order to shake things up and to create change. They often are, but if we look at nature usually kind of goes in its seasons, it goes in its cycles, and once in a while we have a huge storm, we have a hurricane, we have a volcano. But for the most part, spirit works in these natural cycles and waves. So don't ever expect that you need some groundbreaking, crashing, chaotic, seeing the light thing in order for you to progress. It's in the little things. And when we look back sometimes at these little things, these little opportunities, these meetings with people that seemed insignificant, often when we look back, they happened during specific moon phases or portals like this Lion's Gate. So just be honoring whatever's happening for you in your life, wherever you are, whatever your schedule has to be, and know that there's probably more to what's going on, more to your conversations, more to your decisions that might make itself known later. So I pulled a tarot card to read the energy of what is going on in the collective, at least the collective that I'm connected with. And I pulled a death card. And I love the death card. A lot of people are unsure about the death card. It can have some, strange imagery in some tarot illustrations. I really love the death card because in spirituality, death does not mean a final ending. Death is a beautiful transition to something usually bigger and better and more exciting and more in alignment with what we need and who we're becoming and beauty. So where is it? I have this beautiful animal tarot card. Sorry, the light is kind of shining. And you can see in the background, there's this sun that's rising. It looks kind of like an owl or a bird. And so always with the death card, we see an imagery of death with like a skeleton, but in the background, it's the new life that's emerging at the exact same time. And in I think it's the Marseille Tarot, we've got this skeleton, and he's actually holding, I think it's a scythe. He's actually holding it the opposite way around. And when we are a spiritual student and we're having the death of something in our life that's no longer in alignment, it's actually the scythe being in that inverted position, according to Elizabeth Hayes in her book. The inverted position means it's inverted death. And inverted death really means life. So it's like a signal for new life that is available to us right now and that's coming for us. And the skeleton is man's spirit. So when we leave the spirit world, where there's so much possibility and so much potential and just so much dynamism, and we come into the body and we pass like the veil of forgetfulness, and we we forget what our life is like in the spirit world temporarily while we're here in the body, it is almost like a death or a pause for the spirit of being connected and knowing. And the spirit is basically in this body that's very dense, and the body and the ego really knows nothing of spirit. It just knows, what it can see in the five senses, what it's been told from its parents and its culture and its community. And so the spirit really doesn't remember anything. So it's kind of like a death of the spirit, where it falls. It takes that fall out of the spirit world and comes into matter. And as a spiritual student, when we are in the death momentum, the death tarot card symbology, our spirit has had the death of falling into the body like everyone else, but that inverted death with that sun rising in the background is our spirit awakening, starting to remember in the body. It's like the spirit is like, wow, all I've known is these five senses for my life up until now. But now I'm kind of waking up very slowly. I'm noticing things I didn't notice before. I've got signs and synchronicities and inspiration and intuition that I didn't seem to have when I was sleeping, and the body and the ego was just kind of running the show. And so we are having these little awakenings, just awakenings to truth about other people, maybe truth about the intentions of friends and family that we always kind of just like assumed were neutral or benevolent, and they're starting to show their colors. We're starting kind of to see through more deception and manipulation. Even if you never completely trusted the government, or you never really trusted those kind of things, you're actually starting to see through more layers of deception than you were before, because that is the spirit waking up in the body. And so as we wake and realize that we are not the body, but we are the person, we are the higher self, we start to use the body as an instrument. So the body is no longer just for eating and drinking and enjoying and, just being merry, although we still continue to enjoy the body. It has a higher purpose. And the higher purpose is being here and seeing how much of spirit can exist and come through the body. And that sounds kind of vague, but really it's about putting our small I, our small ego first, and allowing our qualities and our character to shine through the individual personality and the ego we've been given. So we don't get rid of Amanda, we don't get rid of Matthew, we don't get rid of the personality and the ego completely, but we allow it to be refined in a way that you bring forth spirit in your own flavor, because you were created as like a fractal part of God, but different than your neighbor, different than your brother. And so how are you allowing this waking up spirit to kind of shine through? And the other word that really came through about death is the death of manipulation, the death of deception. So many of us, especially if you have a history of being in narcissistic relationships, toxic relationships, maybe with a parent or a spouse, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how earlier on in life it was so easy for us to be manipulated for somebody else's gain, to be controlled by intimidation and coercion, maybe violence or abuse. And now with the momentum that we're being given from spirit, especially amplified in this beautiful Lionsgate portal, there is a death of manipulation and deception available to you coming from spirit inside of you, coming from the central sun that has like a station inside of you. And so it's like us having an invisible antenna. Our invisible etheric bodies, we have our physical body, and then the next layer of our subtle body is the etheric. In the etheric body, we are developing spiritual organs that you can't see. So I don't mean you're developing a third kidney, but we're almost like developing layers of antennas that are only really able to be created by big tests and trials and initiations and letting go of our attachments. And as we do that, we create a lot of space for these more advanced spiritual antennas to grow in the ether. And those antennas are creating more connections to our higher self, are creating more connections to the angelic hierarchy, as we call in the West, or the Devas in the Eastern traditions, basically the invisible beings and spirits and forces that are around us all the time that we've been disconnected from while the spirit was sleeping. But now that our spirit is waking up in this death and resurrection process, these antennas are growing and we're being connected to these aspects because we're now a little bit closer to being on their level. We have more similar goals as the angels have for Earth and humanity to grow up. And when we let go in the death process of being manipulated, when we let go of allowing ourselves to be deceived by lies in the media, lies in social media, lies in people around us that are saying one thing, but you can tell there's something else going on beneath the surface and you're kind of seeing through what is authentically going on. We create space in our etheric body for these antennas to grow. We create space for the angelic hierarchy and the devas and even the benevolent elemental spirits that are around on the land nearby us to encourage us and to rejuvenate us and to speak through us and to elevate us to a way of thinking with a spark of mind that's more in line with the laws of the universe, that's more in line with the laws of nature, that is much more intuitive and prepares us for any potential disaster or trouble that's coming our way. We find ourselves in the right place at the right time more often, even if we're not consciously sure how we got there, because those antennas are growing, those spiritual nerves are developing and reaching out to those spiritual hierarchies around us. And that can only happen through the death process, when we put to death these kind of agreements to be manipulated, these agreements to people please, these agreements to not be sovereign, because our main initiation at this time is stepping into sovereignty, which means something totally different, no matter who you are. But we're all becoming sovereign from something that bound us. We're becoming sovereign from something that held us back from creating space for that Christ force to grow in us. And I really feel like at this time, if there has been elements of manipulation or deception in your life, that it's kind of like a really amplified opportunity for your connection to that to die. It's an amplified opportunity for manipulation to drop off because your eyes are opening wider, as uncomfortable as it might be to see certain things. It's just not possible. And at first, it's sometimes hard to say no. It's hard to turn off the channel. It's hard to disengage from participating with certain people if they are in that deceptive or manipulative way. But after saying no and turning off enough times, you create a force field around you where those people and those intentions, they just can't even get to you. It's kind of like they take the path of least resistance and find someone who's a little bit more susceptible to manipulation and deception. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have to constantly kind of come back to ourselves and ground and center and remind ourselves of what's true and say the hard thing. We're always going to have to do that, but it will get easier and easier because those things will just reach us less and less and less. Just back to death, back to Elizabeth Hayes's book. She says that before death, when the spirit was still sleeping, before our awakening, we were merely blind slaves dictated to by our instincts, our bodily instincts. Then our spiritual awareness increased step by step, and our consciousness mows down the person, mows down the small ego, mows down the I'm just gonna do what I want in this moment to get by and survive. And from now on, we can take those instincts, instead of destroying them, we don't want to destroy our instincts from our small ego, but we can order them and we can refine them. And instead of being a bunch of crazy horses pulling our chariot in all different directions, we can let them know where we're going. We can let them know where we're going. And so when your instinct is, I don't want to go there, it feels out of alignment, but I feel obligated. I feel guilty if I don't go. Or I really should do this, but I kind of would rather do this because I really feel like it resonates more for me to do this. You know, we're stopping that self-deception and self-manipulation of doing things the old way for the wrong reasons, to keep other people happy, to avoid confrontations, and to just do things the same because we've always done things the same. So it's not just other people or leadership that is manipulative and deceptive. It's our own unrefined instincts that want to keep us in the exact same routine, watching the same TV channel, metaphorically, forever. And so we are going to notice more and more where we are manipulating ourselves to staying small. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be famous. You don't need to get a lot of recognition or attention in order to be big. You can be the most silent person in the room, but your spirit is big because you're able to see through nonsense and you're able to see truth. You're able to radiate loving kindness to yourself and other people just by saying nothing. It's your energy. And so this is what we have available to us when we can recognize our own manipulation and our own self-deception. And I know that a lot of people watching this and watching these kinds of videos are really working with that right now, letting go of all that. What else was I going to say? Yeah, just that we don't become in this. When we're letting go of our personality, hiccups and our small I ego, we don't become uncaring or uninvolved, or we don't become apathetic. It's actually the opposite. We actually start to feel more. We become more sensitive. We have big emotions. We have big irritations. We feel joy and sorrow of what's going on around us to a greater degree. So instead of us kind of stepping back and like appearing numb, we are feeling big things. But we less feel the need to control and interfere and play God, get involved in other people's lives, or think that we know what is best for them. So we're still observing with so much compassion. And if you're empathic, you're feeling it in your body more than you ever have. But you might actually appear on the outside to be a little bit more silent or a little less involved than you used to be. That's normal. That's normal as you become more of an observer. But you don't stop feeling, and you don't stop sensing, and you don't stop loving. And as you become more like that, as the old man, the old woman, the small ego starts to get refined, you're working in the ether a little bit more. You're working in the spiritual realm. Even if you can't see the spiritual realm, you start to sense when to speak, when to be quiet, when to stay, when to leave, when to cling to loyalty, and when to let go, all without making a big racket. So you're working on an energetic level that's probably not going to bring a lot of fame and fortune, but we start to not care about those kind of things anymore. So if this is you, that is my message for you. I hope something in this video resonates, and just wishing you so much joyous death and resurrection of your new person as you allow these things to die, as you start to see them and let go of them and cling on to that new life, that rising sun that's coming. Thanks for liking and commenting, and journey well.